Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on World Obesity Day. While we wait for people to join in, I will just uh, give you a few data and statistics about obesity, which has become one of the biggest health concerns, public health concerns all over the world, not only in the Western countries, but in India also. As you very well know, today, non-communicable diseases are the number one killers in our country. It is surpassing the communicable diseases. So amongst the non-communicable diseases, obesity is one of the main causes. So on this occasion today, World Health Organization commemorates this particular day as World Health as World Obesity Day. And so what I was trying to tell you is, despite of so much of understanding, or rather trying to understand and deal with this problem, the problem has not gone away. In fact, it has just increased. So even after so many years of trying to guide people, whether it is the public health authorities, or it is the doctors or healthcare practitioners, to advise people how to reduce weight so that the ill health effects of obesity are not uh, escalated in a person, it hasn't seemed to work. Today, more and more percentage of the population are becoming obese, whether it is urban or it is rural, and it is happening at a very alarming rate. So today is the day is to sit back or to ponder and to understand that why is this happening. Because I sincerely believe that unless we understand a particular thing, 50 years of telling that eat less and exercise more has not worked. So if that be so, that means it is time to rethink and try to understand and try to acknowledge the fact that the entire paradigm might have been wrong. So let's try and understand um, why do we get fat. So that is the topic today on World Obesity Day. So I'm going to go into this with a couple of slides, which will, and hopefully some images, which will hopefully make you understand, help you to understand about this topic. Okay, so this is the topic today, and we are going to, I will not say much about myself, other than the fact that I do have a special interest in nutrition. But you can ask me, why me? There are two reasons. One is that people who are interested in nutrition as a therapeutic measure come into this when they have personally have been affected, or if there is if somebody has a special interest in the subject and do some research. So my story is that about 10 or 12 years back, I had become obese, and I had obesity related complications, quite a few of them. I will tell you my story as we proceed. So uh, so that kind of generated an interest in the whole subject. And being a doctor, what I had realized that I did not become obese by overeating or exercising less. I was leading a healthy lifestyle. Other than the fact that I do have long hours, I was following the mainstream guidelines of eating moderately, eating small meals throughout the day, and eating healthy, as everyone would say. But despite of that, I was putting on a lot of weight. So that made me rethink about the entire concept is that have we understood the whole thing wrong? That is what the question was to myself, and I try to apply it to myself, and that is how I generated my interest. So that is why I am, after more than a decade of doing research, of applying it to myself and many other friends of mine. A few stories I will share today. Uh, so I kind of started sharing with others and trying to help others also, because what I see is more and more people are suffering from this problem of obesity and a host of other metabolic problems related to it. I do have certain affiliations, as you can see on the screen, but I do not get any financials from them. So that is one of the disclosures. Uh, and I have a few disclaimers on every webinar that I make, that these are for informational purpose only. What I'll be sharing here is designed to help you to make informed decisions about your health. It is not intended to serve as a substitute for professional medical advice. So whatever you hear from me, please do not, based on that, please do not start or stop any medication. And this, you must take this information and work with your doctor to make any changes in your lifestyle, especially if you are on medication. And I'm here to give you the right information. I can assure you that whatever I'm going to tell you is based on evidence, based on facts, and based on proper medical publications. So that is my guarantee to you. And with this information, you can work with your doctor. Hopefully, you will find someone to work with and make changes in your life. And of course, I am always there to help you. So today is 4th March, and the slogan for this year, World Obesity Day, is everybody needs to act. So we all need to get together, all need to understand why obesity is such a big problem. Do you know that if you consider obesity and another concept which I will tell you is over fat, that is harmful fat in your body, for the first time in the history of human evolution, we have a population where people, more number of people are fat and obese than they are not. So that is the alarming rate of increase. So if you look at the WHO tweet sites, so this is what they are saying. They are saying that obesity leads to a range of diseases like cancers, stroke, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, mental health issues. It affects, the bones and all kinds of organs, the liver, the kidneys, the joints, the heart. But this, I think, if you are from the medical profession or healthcare profession, you probably, or even as a lay person, you might have heard this. And more than that, uh, during the pandemic, it was found that obesity has been a independent risk factor. And across the world, both in the Western countries and in India, it has been found that if a person is otherwise healthy but is obese, the cytokine storm which occurred during COVID infection was very, very vicious. So this has been identified as a independent risk factor. The simple reason being that you might have heard that the coronavirus enters the lungs through a receptor known as ACE2 receptors. So, and this ACE2 receptor, what is not very well known, are also present in the fat cells. Not only present, they are present in 10 times more. So once the virus enters the fat cell, it just flares up. The cytokine response, the inflammatory response just flares up, which is why a person who is obese has have very, very bad outcomes during the pandemic. So this is one of the other reasons, so important a reason that we understand and address this problem. So the plan is going to be, the first half, it might sound like a horror story. What is the actual scenario of obesity and what the problem is going to cause. And second part we'll try and understand. And of course, uh, the best part will be that there is hope and there is something that we can do about it. But unless we understand it, it's very difficult. According to this scientist, he's not only a, let me tell you, he's a geneticist and evolutionary scientist of Ukrainian origin who settled in America. He said that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So whatever we try to understand, we must go back to evolution. So let's have a look at the evolution of our species, Homo sapiens. So if you look at so our species, we have been evolving for nearly 2 million years. And during these 2 million years, we were used to a particular pattern of eating. It is only 12,000 years ago that agriculture was invented. It's, like, and only 30 to 60 years ago, we were still okay when agriculture was invented. We were quite healthy. In fact, the healthiest of Homo sapiens have been just before the discovery of agriculture. They were known as Cro-Magnons. They were nearly 7 feet tall. And if they had survived the initial childhood or the natural calamities, their health and their lifespan would be almost the same as us we are today. But after that, after agriculture came industrial revolution, where the food was started, we started preparing and processing. And if you actually, I'll give you a better example. If you consider these 2 million years as 100,000 generations, like 1 lakh generations, agriculture came in only 600 generations back. And processed foods came in about, say, 2 generations back. And ultra processed food is what we have today, 1 generation back. And we have become sick like this with all kind of metabolic disorders only in the last 2 or 3 generations. So something has gone very wrong with our environment and in the kind of food that we eat. So what has happened is, genetically and evolutionarily perspective, in that perspective, ours is a Paleolithic body, and we are giving it a space age diet. We are very old, ancient. Our genes are still very ancient, but the food which we are giving it is absolutely processed and ultra processed. Our bodies are simply not tolerating it. So if you look at the data from Science Center of Science and Environment, Indian government data, you will find that in India today, obesity is a big fat problem, not only in adults, but also in growing children and teenagers. So much so that it is causing even teenagers or pre-teenagers are becoming obese, and they are having diseases like type 2 diabetes and many other problems. So basically, according to this data, which I showed you, we are, as a country, we are undergoing an epidemiological transformation. India today now is a double burden of diseases. We have the diseases of the poor, from TB to cholera, and all those things have still not gone away. But we also have the diseases of the rich countries, like the non-communicable diseases, which is fast becoming the #1 killer. So these numbers are absolutely mind-boggling, and we have a looming crisis in our hands. So the important thing to understand this is, why did this happen? Now, I'll just stop sharing for a moment and talk to you directly. In our country, the story is slightly different from what happened in the Western countries. We were quite a healthy nation, and till up about 50 or 60 years back. If you go back to 1950s, the first thing which changed in our pattern of eating, that we were forced to buy wheat from the Western countries due to the economic problems we had that time. And if you remember the Green Revolution, we had to buy wheat from America, which was the condition for which was that the seeds or the type of wheat would be from there. So India has had a very old culture of indigenous seeds, which was disrupted. Similar thing happened to rice. Now, rice was also, instead of the traditional variety, the what happened was a high yield variety of rice was cultivated from then onwards. So both the wheat and the rice change. And why I'm telling it is to emphasize the fact that the genetically modified wheat and the rice had a very high glycemic index. Meanwhile, what happened is our cooking media has already undergone a change. From the 1940s onwards, something like hydrogenated vegetable oils, we all must be remembering something known as dalda, which entered every home in our country. Now, this was previous to that, our traditional cooking media was used to be ghee, used to be coconut oil, used to be cold pressed, a few cold pressed seed oils from locally in various parts of the country. Like in this part of the country, it used to be mustard oil or sesame oil, which were cold pressed, mind you. But in the 70s and 80s, what happened was this was replaced by something known as heart, which was marketed as heart healthy white oils. These were marketed as vegetable oils, and there was nothing vegetable about these oils, mind you. These are made from seeds, which has a long history back in the Western countries also, which was cottonseed oil. And in our country, it came in as sunflower oils and rice bran oil, and with various forms of refined vegetable oils. Now, why I'm stressing on refined vegetable oils is because these are highly inflammatory. So, and this directly leads to various metabolic diseases and irritation in the body. I will explain better a little later on. So, what happened? What right now? What I'm telling you, what changes occurred, which made our Indian population sick metabolically. So our rice changed. Now this rice and the wheat, which our grandfathers used to eat, is not the same rice and wheat we are eating today. The cooking media changed, and we started eating the cooking in white oils, which are highly inflammatory. Gone were the coconut oil and the ghee and the other things we were cooking in, which used to give a lot of protection to the carbohydrates which we used to eat. And then what happened? Our lifestyle. Meanwhile, what happened was uh, during that time, during the 70s and 80s, we also incorporated the low-fat guidelines from the West, because our system of medicine does follow the Western system of guidelines. So our doctors follow the American guidelines on across all societies of medicine. So the Nutritional Society also accepted the low-fat guidelines which were going on that time. So the low-fat thing also came into to some extent, and the saturated fat like ghee, like coconut oil, like the fat which comes with eggs, cholesterol, comes with meat and fish, everything was blamed for heart disease, for that they were harmful to our body. So all these changes were occurring, and then our lifestyle also changed. We started eating instead of 1 or 2 meals a day, or maximum 3 meals a day, which I have seen my parents and grandparents eating. And then during our generation, people started eating multiple times throughout the day. So that was also an issue. And then food in the market, slowly the supermarkets came in, and we got processed food also. So and according to the dietary advice which was being given, we started eating 3 meals and 3 snacks and maybe more. So multiple eatings throughout the day. So all these things all these changes in our country led to uh, the an escalation uh, of the metabolic diseases. So we'll try and understand how. So this was I'll start sharing my screen again. This was what that was going on. Okay, so this is what happened in our country. So right now we are not only all these things which I have told you, but there are a lot of obesogens in the environment and in the food products that we eat. One of the very common thing is monosodium glutamate, which you must be knowing that is present in Chinese foods, but it is almost added to almost all kind of foods which are available in processed food, anything that comes out of a packet, or ultra processed food, or fried foods, fried chicken, fried fish, whatever you eat, to make it give you a particular flavor or a addictive taste, which you keep on wanting to eat. So there are other things also. Not going into the details. Nicotine is also an obesogen, and so are poisons like DDT and bisphenol. So all these things contribute to the obesity epidemic. And mind you, nutrition is the main thing, but all these things also contribute. Now, over and above that, there is one thing which I would like to tell you. There is something known as uh, overfat. Now, what is overfat? When overfat means when you have excess amount of body fat, which is harmful to your body, which can impair your health and can contribute to chronic diseases. You may not appear to be a fat person, and this is very commonly seen in our country, where we Indians have a very lean and thin body frame, but there will be central obesity, a small pot belly, or even may not be there. So the fat may not be very visible, but the harmful fat is there. Where is the fat? Fat is in the belly. Fat is inside the organs of your body. The fat is in the viscera, we call it. So this visceral fat, and especially fat in the liver, is very, very harmful. So that is why this is what overfat means, and accumulation of excess body fat that can impair your health. And this can also occur in those who appear to be obese and who are overweight, but it can also occur in normal weight and non-obese individuals, often due to excess abdominal fat. So this is known as metabolically obese normal weight. So this data is from Philip Maffeton, who had done a lot of work in India and did some research. So what happens is, whereas in developed countries, you have this thin outside of fat inside, we call it TOFI, TOFI, and the 70% of the people will be, visibly fat, and only 20% would be lean and fat. Whereas in our country, the percentage would be 40, like half and half. So as many as half of our obese people or over fat people, that is a better term, would be not, you cannot make out that they are fat, because the fat is inside them. So here lies the problem. So not only the visible people who are fat, but the lean people also are metabolically, they are over fat, and they also have the same issues of health issues, including outcome during the pandemic with this kind of fat. So this is very, very, this is something which we must keep in mind. So you all know, with obesity comes a cluster of chronic diseases. Obesity leads to all kind of problems, and this is just a illustration of this, and which can shorten your lifespan like anything, just to emphasize that fact. So now we'll try and understand that given the horror scenario that obesity can contribute to, we'll try and understand why do we get fat. Now, the conventional theory or the conventional wisdom which goes around is that, even if you look at the WHO website, which I'm showing you now, They also believe that it is an energy imbalance, which is between the calories consumed and the calories expended. So they think that the WHO tells us that there is an increased uptake of, there is an increased intake of high energy dense foods that are high in fat and sugars, and an increase in physical inactivity. That means basically we are eating more and we are moving less. That is why there is, so much of obesity. So the diet has changed, as I told you, and but they are saying that people have become lazy because of what their urban planning, environment, food processing, distribution, marketing, and education. All these things have also contributed. But so this is the most commonly believed hypothesis, that we eat more and we exercise less. Hence, the advice is given that we should eat less and exercise more. So that has been given for more than 50 years. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked. Even, you find people who are, vigorously getting up in the morning and exercising, and getting up in the morning and exercising. They are trying their best to follow this advice. Even I tried that, trying to eat healthy, trying to exercise. But we know very well that it rarely works. An obese person who has not tried to eat less and exercise more is a very, very rare person. Everybody has tried it at some time, but in the long run it really doesn't work, and we'll try and understand why. So let me try and explain it to you in a very simple way, that this is what we believe in. It is what has been told to us, that calories in, your calories out should be equivalent to calories in. Otherwise, you're going to accumulate that as fat. So if this is your body, and you're eating, taking in calories, and excess of it is stored, and if you do not work out all of them, it is going to store as glycogen, and that will be stored as fat. So this actually is a one compartmental body. But unfortunately, our bodies are not one compartmental physiological. They are physiological structures. We have very complex system. There are hormones involved. So body actually behaves like a, not like a one compartmental model. It behaves like a two compartmental model. Now I want you to look at this picture very carefully. So here is our calories in and calories out, and the excess of which, if you take excess of energy, I would say energy over here rather than calories. So it will be stored as glycogen, especially the carbohydrate part, and that, with, you can see a person out here who is the insulin, and according to who, insulin here acts like a traffic policeman, and as the level of the insulin is there, according to the level of the insulin, it will be stored as body fat. So this is a two compartmental model, which actually applies more to the human body. So according to this theory, or according to this, bodies are actually obesity is actually a hormonal disorder. It is actually not a caloric imbalance. That is very important to understand. So this is what actually is happening, that we do not get fat because we eat more. We eat more because our tissue is accumulating excess fat. So go through these lines, I'll explain better. I'll give you physiological examples, one or two. Just imagine a teenager growing up from the age of 13 to 19. Now, normally, not the kind of teenagers you have today who are getting obese for no reason, but normally, if a teenager from the age of 13 to 19 has a voracious appetite, we all know that, and they eat a lot more. So that, why are they eating more? Because their bones are growing, because their muscles are growing, they are growing. So that growth drives their appetite and their food intake. Another example, suppose a lady becomes pregnant. So over a period of next few months, we all know that the lady has a voracious appetite. She puts on weight because she's eating. There is a baby growing inside her tummy, and she feels very hungry, and she eats for two persons basically. So it is this growth, a new life growth, which is driving her to eat more. So it is not that she is, putting on more weight because she's eating more. She is eating more because there is a role, a reason why the food is needed by the body and the body is taking it. So it's just a change in thinking, a change in paradigm of understanding. Similarly, in a obesity, which is a pathophysiological situation, there is something gone wrong with the fat cells in our body, which is making it accumulate excess fat. That is why we are eating more. So we do not get fat because we eat more. We eat more because our fat tissue is accumulating excess fat due to some reason. We'll try and find out what. So basically, our body, when we eat and when we sleep, exists in either a fed state and in a fasted state. Since I already brought in the character insulin, so I'm going to focus on this character from now on. So when we eat food, insulin is secreted, and food is stored in the liver, and excess of it is produces fat in the liver. But when you stop eating, when you are fasting, your insulin level comes down, and it burns the fat in the liver and burns the stored sugar in the liver. So this is your body in a fed state, and this is a body in a fasted state. Okay, so these are the states of the body. Now what happens is, the problem is not, normally if you eat once or two or three meals a day, the problem is when you are eating small meals throughout the day, a lot of excess of food or excess of foods which increase insulin, your insulin remains high chronically. That causes the weight gain, and that also causes the resistance of another hormone known as leptin. Leptin normally helps you to, feel full. It is a satiety hormone. So that also kind of is inhibited and obstructed. So the insulin resistance also causes leptin resistance. So this becomes a vicious cycle. So what happens? Uh, when there is insulin resistance due to chronically elevated insulin, this causes, your body to cling to the fat. And mind you, insulin is not a villain as such. Insulin is a master hormone, as we call it. It is required by each and every cell of the human body. But what happens is, when it is chronically raised, insulin is not supposed to be chronically raised. It's secreted from a small organ, and that too a few cells of a small organ. It is supposed to be used in very, very small quantities only when required. But chronically raised insulin levels, which occur due to a modern food style, due to a modern food, is what becomes the problem. So much so that research and publications are now thinking that it is this hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance is maybe the cause, or maybe the reason behind all our metabolic disorders, which I will try and illustrate like this. Like, this is insulin resistance, and we are talking about body fat today, obesity. But not only that, if you look at other problems like heart disease, like diabetes, like low testosterone, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. India is also the polycystic ovarian syndrome capital of the world, unfortunately. Our rates are double than the rest of the world. Fatty liver, for which there is no medication. Sarcopenia, which means the muscle loss which occurs after a certain age. Migraines, osteoarthritis, stroke, dementia, even cancer. So what is happening here is, we in mainstream medicine treat all these diseases as separate diseases, and we try to give medications for each of them, try to give, and we just do not see the elephant in the room, which is insulin resistance. So that is what the problem has become. We, as far as all metabolic diseases are concerned. So I will come back to this picture later. But this is the if you remember anything from this session today, please keep this image in mind. So that this is the real cause of the metabolic diseases, of all the metabolic diseases that you are seeing. The problem here is, unlike the magic of antibiotics, which made medicine, the all modern medicine, all powerful in the 40s and 50s. We came from that kind of thinking, and we thought that even in these metabolic diseases we can apply medications and get away with it. But unfortunately, it's not working. A pill for every ill is not the answer over here. So answer over here is to understand the root cause of all these metabolic illnesses and try to address that. So we are talking about body fat today. We'll continue. So hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance, this actually the culprit. So much so that science is pointing towards the fact that the process of healing, as I told you, virtually every single major disease from cancer to heart disease has in its core the same basic approach. And even the variability of your lifespan is regulated by your insulin, by normal healthy insulin levels. So if you want to ask yourself, do you have insulin resistance? Just go through this question. I'm not going to take a poll, but here are your questions. Do you constantly crave sugary and starchy food? Do you have fat around your belly? If you measure your waist in inches and measure your height in inches, divide your waist and take your waist and divide it by your height. If it is less than 0.5, you do not have fat. If it is more than 0.5, you have fat in your belly. Have you been frustrated by failed attempts to lose weight with a low fat diet, which most of the times you are advised? Do you have high blood pressure or high blood sugar? Do you have high triglycerides? Do you have a fatty liver, which you might have been diagnosed with an ultrasound? Do you have patches of colored skin? Do you have gout? Or do you have a family member with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes? Or do you have a family member who have had gestational diabetes or PCOS? If you have answered yes to any one of these questions, oh, I left out one. Do you have patches of dark colored skin? People have sometimes. So that is known as acanthosis nigricans, which is also a sign of insulin resistance. So even if you have answered yes to any one of these questions, it is likely that you are having hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance. So keep that in mind. So let us go to the, since I always say that pills are not the answer. Medicine is actually not healthcare. Medicine is sick care. It is nutrition which is healthcare. And that is what we are trying to get at. Something known as therapeutic nutrition. So why do we eat? We eat to get certain nutrients in our body so the body can be healthy and survive. So the nutrients that we eat in our diet can be divided into macronutrients and micronutrients. We'll focus on the macronutrients because I think if you take care of your macros, the micros will take care of itself. So basically we have whatever we eat can be divided into either carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Right. So let's have a look at this and see what each of these macronutrients does to our blood sugar and insulin. So the dotted line is the insulin, and the colorful graphs are the amount of sugar which kind of goes up in your blood in response to a carbohydrate. You can see that the sugar just shoots up, and if you eat protein, it is somewhere in between. But if you eat fat, by fat I mean the healthy fat. I'll come to that. Not the the white oils which I told you about, but healthy fat which is a part of natural food, like the coconut oil, like the ghee, like the fat which comes with meat and fish and eggs. So that if you eat fat, it will not affect your blood sugar or insulin. Now, another of these three macros, a very a fact which is most of the time forgotten, although we have read it in our textbooks, is that um, there are essential amino acids. Means proteins are broken down into amino acids, as you must be knowing. So there are essential amino acids. Essential means that our bodies cannot manufacture and we have to take from outside, from an extraneous source. There are essential fatty acids, certain fatty acids which our body needs, which we cannot manufacture from our own, and we have to eat. But mind you, there are no essential carbohydrates. So this is something we tend to forget, because today our meal structure is such that 80 to 90% of our meals consist of carbohydrates. And even if you ask your doctor or healthcare practitioners, all the belief is such that, oh, the brain has to run on glucose. The brain needs glucose, the red blood cells need glucose, certain vital organs of our bodies need glucose. Yes, it may. The brain actually, we have become used to utilizing brain glucose as a fuel for the brain. But the fact is that small amount of glucose which is needed can be manufactured in the body itself by a process known as neoglucogenesis. It is a very small amount, 4 to 4.5 to 5 grams in 24 hours to keep your blood sugar in a normal range. So that amount can easily be manufactured in the body by a process known as gluconeogenesis. So, and you need not take any glucose from an outside source. So that is a fact which you must keep in mind. So what you really need is fat and protein. Proteins are building blocks. It builds your muscles, and fat can give you energy. So basically, these are the roles of macronutrients. Your proteins are building blocks, which build your muscles and your muscle cells, your bone. And your body can utilize either carbohydrates as a fuel or fat as a fuel. Using fat as a fuel is something which we are not used to as a concept, but this is what I want to tell you, that our bodies are like a double, a car which can run on two sources, like on battery and on fuel, hybrid car engines. So it can use carbohydrate as a fuel and it can use fat as a fuel. A few interesting pictures which will make you understand. So whether the body will use carbohydrate as a fuel or a fat as a fuel will depend upon the insulin levels in your body. Now, if your insulin levels are, if you are a healthy person, you do not have any metabolic issues, so you can actually tolerate some amount of carbohydrates. So this is known as your carbohydrate tolerance limit. I will come to that later. So, but if you are healthy, you can actually switch between using carbohydrate as a fuel and fat as a fuel, and this is known as metabolic flexibility. Now, you can, so if you are metabolically flexible, you can use little bit of carbohydrates. By carbohydrates, I mean the good carbohydrates, the green leafy vegetables, especially. So that can be used as a fuel for your energy, and the body fat which is already there, or the fat which you eat, that can also be used as your fuel. Now, when you eat only a lot of carbohydrates, especially the processed ones, especially the ones which we get nowadays, the white rice, the bread, the pizzas, the pastas, the noodles, all this processed starchy food, your insulin level shoots up and remains high, as I told you. So what happens is it shoots up, and your insulin levels will remain high, and that leads to insulin resistance. And what happens? Your burning fuel. The body users can use only carbohydrate as a fuel when your insulin levels are high. So your body remains in the carbohydrate burning mode or a glucose burning mode. So as long as your insulin levels are high, you get stuck at a high level, and the body gets stuck in a carb burning mode. So, and this particular thing is known as metabolic inflexibility. So that is the problem. So when your insulin levels are high, you become metabolically inflexible. So no matter how much you exercise, this is why only exercising does not work. No matter how much your body will, the high levels of insulin in the body will, it will keep the fat. It will not allow the body to tap into the fat stores. So your body will keep on burning whatever little carbohydrates carbs are available, and then it will feel very very hungry. So you keep on eating again, and that vicious cycle will, and you excess of carbohydrates will again get stored as fat, and that will again increase your obesity. So you will get stuck over here. No matter how less you eat, even if you eat less, you will feel hungry. And even if you eat more, it is going to, if your insulin levels remain high, it's not going to help. So to tap into this, your body fat, your own body fat, and to so as to reduce your weight, you have to get your insulin levels down so that you can use that particular fat as your fuel. So if you get your insulin levels down, your fatty acids will your fat or fatty acid will break down into something known as ketone bodies. So that your body now becomes something known as fat adapted. So that is when you become insulin sensitive. You're no longer insulin resistant. So become insulin sensitive, and kind of then you can this when insulin levels are down, you can use fat as a fuel, and I will tell you a little more about it later. Before that, one more example is like having a huge tanker full of energy. An average person has so much of body fat inside, even without being obese, that it can be used as a fuel for, even if you fast for a month or more, you can just go on without having any issues. So even this particular tanker has so much of fuel but is not using it. It is only using fuel from a very small tank over here. So it's basically having a lot of fat stores. I'm not talking about obese person here, talking about a normal person, but you're using only small amount of fuel. But if you can keep your insulin levels down, there can be a connection between your fat stores, and it will allow access you to the fat of your body to be used as a fuel. So this is what can, so much of energy is already there. So this is what I was trying to tell you. And other than that, what happens is we have a lot of misconceptions regarding this, that I've written it down for you, that you must eat less and exercise more to lose weight. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You need to eat 6 times a day. All calories are the same. Eggs and meat will kill you. Saturated fat will clog your arteries. Grains are heart healthy. Fasting is nothing but starvation. Ketogenic diet are dangerous. So you must have heard this somewhere or the other. So all these are misconceptions, mind you. So what actually happens is, the present day eating patterns, your insulin levels, as I told you, keeps on going up and down. You have breakfast, then you have a snack, then you have lunch, another snack, dinner, and nighttime snack. So it keeps on varying throughout the day. So here, your poor fat does not even get a chance to be burned, because when you wake up in the morning, you have a natural gift of low insulin. God has given you. You have had your meal at 10 p.m., you have slept for 8 hours, you got up in the morning, your insulin levels are low. But then the moment you have a breakfast, all our breakfasts are very, very full of carbohydrates, whether it's a sandwich or it is puri sabji, or it is a luchi tarkari, or it is, noodles. So what happens is, immediately your shoots up, insulin level shoots up, and then you have lunch, and then you have once again your insulin level shoots up. So it keeps on happening throughout the day. So you are have very small amount of patchy fat burning. So it really doesn't work. So what happens? Suppose you do not have carbohydrates in them as breakfast. You have only fat and protein. For example, you have only eggs fried in butter. Just one example. So your insulin level remains low, and since your insulin levels are low, your body can tap into the fat as a fuel, and you have a good amount of fat burning. Similarly, if you have only fat and protein as your lunch also, your insulin levels will again remain low throughout the day, and you have a excellent amount of fat burning throughout the day. This, if you can stick to this kind of a eating pattern, then your body will become something, as I said, fat adapted. You can tap into your own body fat, and you can some more of what you eat, and you will get a lot of more energy. The energy that comes from carbohydrates is just like a matchstick, I always say. It burns quick, but burns out quick also. And the energy that comes from fat is like lighting a log of fire, difficult to light, but a fire which once lit can last for a very long time, and can keep the darkness away for the rest of the night, I would say. So that is the advantage of using fat as a fuel. So much more efficient and better fuel. Not only that, it has been found that these ketones, which are breakdown products of the fatty acids, are have a lot of benefits in your body. They have in the brain, in the muscle, in the body fat, in the heart. Your heart contracts better. Your brain has improved cognition. It reduces your chances of Alzheimer's. For muscles, it increases your exercise capacity, and it reduces the oxidative stress. Body fat is mobilized and metabolized. So do not be afraid of the word ketones. Medical professionals sometimes we are very scared of these words because of this ketoacidosis, which we were taught during our medical school. But that has got nothing to do with what I am talking about today. What I am talking about today is a state of nutritional ketosis. That is a normal state which should be occurring. And that is what, if we go back to evolution once again, when we were evolving as Homo sapiens, there would be prolonged period of time when we were not eating, and previous to that we may have got a kill, and we may have eaten a lot of food of protein and meat, and after that the body went into a nutritional ketosis mode, which helped us to survive. So that is something normal to our body. When our bodies have a, mind you, if you want the publications, I'll give you in any JM also, that it is a evolutionary switch that we have inside us, that the state of nutritional ketosis is natural uh, for human beings, and that is what gives us normal good health, and that is what gives us longevity. During ketosis, a ketone body known as BOHB, beta hydroxybutyric acid, uh, that is supposed to be a longevity molecule. So here is the truth once again. We do not get fat because we eat more. We eat more because our fat tissue is accumulating excess fat. And that excess fat, mind you, is driven by insulin. And insulin is driven by the type of food and the way we eat it. So how do we get fat? Your body. So remember that a body is an engine which can run on two fuels, glucose and ketones. And the body can be made to switch between those two fuels by the means of something known as the metabolic switch. There are enormous amount of publications, papers, books on this metabolic switch. If you are interested, you can go through them. But the problem is most of the time we are in the glucose burning mode, thanks to all, all the time eating carbohydrates and sugary foods throughout, right from our birth, I would say. Gripe water, and then any occasion we eat, any occasion that we celebrate with sugar. So to tap into the fat, we need to get out of this glucose burning mode and to switch the metabolism in such a way that we can use the fat as a fuel. And this can activated only by low levels of insulin. And remember that insulin levels are primarily driven by especially processed carbohydrates. So you have to address the root cause, that realize that obesity is a hormonal and metabolic disorder. Correct the metabolism, the body heals, and weight loss is just one of the side benefits. When you address that elephant in the room, which I showed you in that picture, weight loss is one of the benefits that you get a lot of other benefits, your diabetes, your hypertension, and so many other PCOS, all those uh, um, ill effects of metabolic problems, that everything is helped, everything is resolved quite an extent. So what is the kind of food one should eat? Eat real food, if you want it in three words. The kind of food which you are seeing, which comes in with nature, nothing that is, we have made a mess of the food that we manufacture. But food which comes in nature is the food which we are meant to eat, because every species, the food is specific for them. Food is specific, I say. So we are meant to eat food which is real, this kind of food, not this kind of food. Look here in the down, the bread and the noodles and the white rice and the starchy vegetables which grow underground, they are all, by the time they come to your plate, they are very, very processed. They are nothing but sugar. And I don't have to elaborate what is here in the upper half of the picture. These are absolute no. This not only shoots your insulin up, and that is highly inflammatory. Now, this once again, this hyperinsulinemia is the problem behind not only obesity and heart disease, and it is also the number one cause of heart disease. As somebody had asked me, why are young Indians dropping dead, or having heart disease at a very young age? One of the reasons is the kind of food that we are eating today is they are chronically in a hyperinsulinemic stage, which there are scientific studies are showing is a kind of irritant to the body. So no matter how much exercise you do, no matter how much marathons you run, oh, by the way, every marathon there will be some young people who will drop dead of heart attacks. You must have noticed that. So unless you get your diet right, exercise is not going to help. I have nothing against exercise. It has got a lot of benefits, but you cannot outrun a bad diet. So that is what you must remember. And alcohol, absolute no. Um, I know you're going to hate me for saying this, but and this is just liquid carbohydrates, especially the beer and the sugary cocktails, and maybe red wine once in a while. Some people would advocate, but um, the problem with alcohol is the moment you take alcohol along with food, the liver will immediately recognize alcohol as a poison, and it will hold the digestion of other food on hold till alcohol is metabolized. So the entire process of metabolism gets delayed. So alcohol is a no if you want to lose weight and remain healthy. So basically, there are no shortcuts. You need to understand this is the reason why you get fat, not because you eat more, exercise less, but because your body remains in a chronically inflamed state. That means that if you are obese, if you are fat, that means there is, imagine, just remember that there is a kind of a slow fire burning in your body. That fire needs to be doused, and then your body will heal automatically. So the nutrition strategy, These images are courtesy Dr. Benjamin Bickman, who is a very famous insulin scientist. You must read his books. Uh, you must control your carbs, prioritize your protein, and fuel with fat. This is the summary of what I already told you. Carbohydrates should be just green leafy vegetables, nothing more than that. Your fats, your protein should be as rich as possible, as nutrient dense as possible, and which should come from nature. Nothing which is manufactured, artificial protein in a glass. Those are not the real things. Fuel, fat, healthy fat is what we need. Healthy fat was always a part of our diet, whether it is the fat which comes with meat and fish and eggs, or the fat which comes from coconut and avocado and olive oil. These are the healthy fats, and they should be very much a part of our cooking medium. That is, and healthy fat when you eat not only gives you energy, it is kind of anti-inflammatory. It reduces the inflammation, or rather, I would say, it is the least inflammatory of all your food products. And of course, along with protein, it gives you a lot of satiety. So if we eat a combination of protein and fat, the kind of satiety you will get is what will sustain you to, which will kind of, you won't feel like eating so many times throughout the day if you have a good amount of protein and fat in a particular meal. So once again, I will leave you with this particular image. If, as I told you, if you have to take one thing from this session, you take this, that this is the elephant in the room you need to address. And I have discussed only obesity today. If there is occasion, I'll discuss more of these issues one by one. So let me tell you a few stories, starting with my story back about in 2009. Despite of trying hard to follow the normal guidelines, I was becoming metabolically ill, metabolically obese, and until I decided to take things in my own hand and to do what I just told you. And this is how I am today. So it did take some time, but I did manage to resolve a lot of problems, a lot of issues which I had. Along with obesity, I had pre-diabetes, I had knee joint pains, I had acid reflux, and a few more other things, small things which just went away. And I maintained that. And if I can do it, why can't you? And with permission, I'm sharing the stories of a few of my friends. This gentleman managed to lose more than nearly 30 kgs in just a matter of 6 months. So, and he is very happy and very energetic, and he already feels 10 or 15 years younger than what his age is. A friend of his, he also, you can see the dramatic change which occurred in just 3 or 4 months. And he wrote to me saying that when he went home to Goa, he stays in Kolkata, his own mother could not recognize him. He had lost so much of weight in just a matter of few months. Some of you must have seen him. He is my own assistant who works with me here. All of a sudden, he found that he got motivated because his blood sugar went up, his blood pressure went up, and he just blindly followed what I told him to. And within 1.5, 2 months, I think, his sugar became normal, his blood pressure became normal, he became lean and thin, and he continues to maintain that. So these have been my realizations, that we have not evolved to grow old and become progressively sick as we age. Our bodies are actually fantastic healing machines. Who is standing in the way? We ourselves are standing in the way because of our faulty beliefs sometimes, or even because of the wrong things that we have been taught. But remember that we all have a lifespan and we all have a health span, and ideally our lifespan and health span should be the same. We should not spend the ending years of our life having a chronic problem, becoming compromised in our daily functioning. That is not what our bodies are meant for. Our bodies are meant to be fantastically, be active, be healthy, and do whatever you want to do um, till the last day of our lives. So I call this my decade of healing. So here is a summary. It is a obesity, mind you, is a hormonal disorder. It's not a caloric imbalance. Eat less and exercise more does not work. I've given a red star over there because there are plenty of studies starting from Harvard to Tufts to many other countries. There are eat less studies, there are exercise more studies. None of them work. Chronic hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance are the real culprit. When insulin is down, fat reduction will automatically follow. A low carb diet or a very low carb diet is a viable option. I have scored that because these are lines straight out of the American Diabetic Association guidelines, but written in very small print, of course. So that is what should be followed. So control your carbohydrates, prioritize your protein, and whatever energy you want that can come from healthy fats. So eat real food, absolutely avoid snacking and no junk foods, and eat less frequently. Remember that our bodies are used and we have it inside us as an evolutionary trigger that we are used. Our bodies do much better when we don't eat for prolonged periods of time. So that is known as intermittent fasting, and that is a separate subject in itself, and perhaps the most powerful tool that we have today. More of that next time maybe. And avoid direct inflammatory agents like the white oils which I told you about. So this in summary is what you can, the understanding of obesity and what you can do about it. So thank you very much for a very patient hearing. I've taken a lot of time maybe, but I wanted to make you understand the real cause behind obesity. And this is my Facebook group. I do my podcasts under this heading, Are We As Healthy As Can Be? And let this not be the end of the session. Or if this is the end of the session, but let it not be the end of the discussion. I can take questions right now, and you can continue later with. You can join this group and let me know. A lot of appreciation. Any questions right now? Everybody live? We believe that sweeting can reduce weight. Is this statement true? If true, how it can reduce? For instance, if I stay in a hot place and I sweat regularly. Oh, you must be meeting sweating. No. Sweating is just losing some amount of body heat. It is a protective mechanism or a mechanism to lose body heat when you stay in a hot place. That is not real weight loss, because it will make you drink water and you'll get that weight back again. No, sweating will not cause weight loss. What will cause weight loss is what I talked about the entire session. Any other questions? Anybody? If your questions are not coming to your mind right now, you can always send them along to HCP forum, or is your presentation, I note in that fasting is not beneficial. No, I didn't say that. I never said fasting is not beneficial. No, I never said that. Fasting, what I said is, when we were evolving as human beings, we used to undergo prolonged period of fasting because we were forced to. And we have a evolutionary, and our bodies are used to it. And we can remain without food for prolonged period of time. And that is what intermittent fasting is all about. And if you fast intermittently, it is very natural that your insulin level will fall. Like if you are fast for 16 hours in a day and eat only in a 8-hour eating period, so during those 16 hours the insulin levels will be very low, and that can tap into your fat. So intermittent fasting is one of the very powerful tools for weight loss. That is what I meant to say. I'm sorry if I not got through to that. Somebody has asked, does a high protein and fat diet not alter renal function? Yes, yes, yes. This is a question which I have been asked many, many times. Mr. Nobo Shah, let me tell you that the meat and the high protein has been demonized unnecessarily. To sum it up, only if your kidneys are already damaged to an extent that you need hemodialysis, high protein diet, high protein will not cause any damage to the kidneys. What really causes damage to your kidneys are the high carbohydrates. That is what you know compromises the function, not kidney, not protein. Red meat, whether it's red meat or whether it is any other high protein source, it will not. You can go up to, if the recommended guideline and RDA, dietary allowance is 0.8 grams per kg, which is very, very poor, very, very less, I would say. A healthy young person can eat up to 2.5 grams per kg of body weight of protein without causing any harm to the kidneys. And as we grow older, 50 and above, we need much more proteins to retain our muscle. And for some reasons at this age, we stop eating protein, for whatever reason. And that causes protein loss, muscle loss. And mind you, muscle loss is intimately related to bone health. Muscle health is related to bone health. And you have so many pathological, if bone becomes rarefied, and you have so many pathological fractures just by falling down. So you need proteins. They are your building blocks. And this concept, or this demonization that a high protein diet will cause damage to the kidneys is absolutely untrue. And there are plenty of studies to back it up. I'm not just saying it out of my own mind. And if you are interested in the medical studies, I can provide you with them. Any other question? Let me check again. Oh, yes. Mr. Mondal, yes, I know you. Having type 2 diabetes for the last 10 years, taking insulin. Tricky to balance if I focus on a complete fat-centric diet. My insulin intake has been reduced considerably after your advice in the direction of fat-centric diet. Well, I'm really very happy to know that. Thank you. Mr. Mondal, as I remember, as I told you, that do not go for fasting right now. You are on 4 or 5 drugs for your diabetes and insulin. So just change your diet from a high carb diet to a low carb, high fat diet. And I think you have done that. And that is why you have been able to considerably reduce your insulin dose. That is your first step towards reversing type 2 diabetes. Yes, it is possible. I personally believe that no one should suffer from type 2 diabetes. We all unnecessarily suffer due to a wrong understanding. And but go slow, because you are on drugs and you are on insulin, so it will take some time. Decades of walking down the wrong path cannot be reversed in a day. So have patience, have courage, have the knowledge that will give you the power. And I'm there. No, starvation is different from intermittent fasting. Mind you, starvation means when your body has exhausted its fat stores also, and then it is trying to tap into the muscle. By a natural mechanism, your body doesn't touch the muscle, and very little. Muscle is, you can say, insignificantly affected when you fast. So suppose that there was a chap, it is there in the medical records, who was fasted for 380 days, more than a year. He was very, very fat. And he lost his weight. He had a couple of multivitamins only throughout that 1 year, nothing more than that. And he kept his hydration. But he did not lose muscle. So muscle is affected only when the fat stores are getting depleted. So that and when muscles are being used to make glucose for energy, that is what the definition of starvation is. Not father. Fasting and starvation are two different things. Okay. Okay, a lot of learning, excellent narration. Thank you. Is it okay to do intermittent fasting every day? Yes, this is okay. It is excellent practice, but don't jump into it. Do not go slow. For me, I do intermittent fasting every day. That means I eat only once a day. My last meal was 10 p.m. last night, and I will have maybe tonight. So this took me more than 5 years to achieve. So go very, very slow. Take, space it out. The ideal starting point would be 16 hours. Just extend your this thing. Eat a good amount of real food that will keep your hunger down, fat and protein. If you eat processed carbohydrates, even in your eating window, even when you are fasting, that will only increase your hunger. So yes, it is healthy, and there are a lot of research has been done on this, including a lot of studies have come from Ramadan research, and they all have shown even that is not a perfect fast. They only fast 12 hours a day and eat a lot before and after that, but still the health benefits are very, very tangible. So if we actually do a 16:8 fasting every day and then extend it to uh, 22 hours and 2 hour eating window, which is what I do, it is fantastic. There is somebody who has said eating fat also increases insulin level. It is significant. Yeah, it depends on what kind of fat you are eating. Healthy fats, amongst the three macronutrients, fat is the macronutrient which impacts insulin the minimum. Okay, I did not say does not increase at all. Any kind of food will kind of uh, uh, stimulate the pancreas, but fat is the minimum. And if you are eating healthy fats, it will remain that way. So that will not cause chronic hyperinsulinemia, which is the real enemy, real target. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for a very patient hearing. I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of an understanding of the changing paradigms of this obesity research. Uh, everything in medicine comes very, very slow. So I hope this will come to our mainstream practice, and in our textbooks and in our regular teaching, doctors will tell you this, but it will take a long time. And I don't want my, people, my near and dear ones, the ones whom I know and ones whom I'm trying to reach out, to suffer unnecessarily. So that is the motivation behind my podcast, behind my reaching out to you. So if you have any questions, I'm there. You can put the questions through the SCP forum. You can join my Facebook group, Are You As Healthy As Can Be? And I will try and answer them as quickly and as clearly as I can. Thank you very much. And I hope you have all have good health and be in touch. Thank you.